3 truths about the heart of Sabik. Unravel what you know. Fandaniel's voice cracks as the crystal bleeds. Unravel what you know. Menfina's chains were Zodiark's own design. The moon's locked orbit, the prison's walls, the rival that never was. A lie woven to hide corruption within. You will not escape me, Zodiark. The void trembles. The echo is the key is the cage. What if the heart of Sabik's independence was a lie fed to Fandaniel to obscure Zodiark's true nature? Forged not as a rival, but as a prison to contain its own corrupted potential. Fandaniel, blind to the architect of his quest, carved a cage from the shadow he sought to destroy. The echo was never free, it was Zodiark's whisper, binding its own undoing. How many truths unravel when the key and cage are one? The source's fracture birthed not a rival, but a shackle. Zodiark, bound in Menfina, wove its own corruption into chains. Venat's sundering split Aether's 13 shards, one fractured will. Fandaniel traced the echo, mistaking shadow for substance. He named it. He studied it. He believed he shaped Sabik's heart. The scholar's quill bled truth into parchment. Fandaniel's hand wrote Zodiark's true name. Yet the name was a mirror, reflecting not the prisoner but the cage. Sabik's pulse was never defiance, it was a dirge, a self-wound to stall the final days. How does a god imprison itself? By letting its jailer think he builds the cell. The heart's independence was Zodiark's silence, a lie etched in every glyph Fandaniel carved. Each experiment, each invocation, only reinforced the seal. The scholar who first transcribed its name did not know he transcribed his own obituary. No evil here. No hero, only a will too vast to die, too fractured to act. Zodiark's whisper in Sabik's core was not rebellion, it was a pause, a breath between endings. And Fandaniel, blind to the paradox, became both architect and tomb. The Charlayan archives hold his notes. The Garleans sought its power. Allagan hands reconstructed its form. None saw the hand that truly forged it, Zodiark's, from its own entrails to keep the world from unraveling. Again. You call it a failsafe, a cage, it is neither. The heart of Sabik is Zodiark's own scar, sutured over a wound it could not heal. You dissect its chambers, Fandaniel, and mistake silence for submission. What if the void you carved into was not resistance but a mirror? A self-portrait of the thing you sought to unmake. Nihilism is your scalpel, you do not seek balance. You seek to peel the world back to its first breath, to erase all that grew after. The heart's pulse methodical, mechanical does not oppose this, it amplifies it. Every fracture you induce becomes a conduit. Every sacrifice a thread in the loom. You believe you are bending the heart, it bends you. Zodiark's prison was never meant for you. Venat's chains in Menfina bound its body. The heart binds its memory. You think it fights to reunite, it fights to forget. To smother the hunger that birthed the source, the hunger that gnaws even now through Sabik's iron veins. You call it a rival, it is a relic, a shroud woven from Zodiark's own dread. What if the heart's independence was a cipher? A code to stall your hands from reaching the truth, that Zodiark's will is not to consume but to atone. You unravel its prison, Fandaniel, and find no monster. Only a starved thing, still clawing at the inside of its own skull, trying to remember how to stop. Fandaniel, the name clings like ash on a mourner's tongue. Once he was Amon Allagan hands that carved the first crystal tower's ribs, his mind a forge where light bent to will. He shaped the heart's prison walls, not knowing he sculpted his own tomb. The hum of his workshop now a dirge, Amon's successor, the Ascians. They threaded the heart's pulse into their tapestry, stitching Aether's unraveling threads with stolen starlight. Their whispers, sharp as splintered glass, coaxed the heart to mimic Zodiark's roar. Yet their rejoining a wound sutured with venomly deepened the cage's iron grip. Then Venat. Hydaelyn's shadow, her fingers bleeding starlight as she bound the heart's fractures. She called it balance. A lie polished to a hymn. Her radiance seeped into the cracks, not to heal, but to blind. The scent of ozone and burnt honey lingers where her light met Zodiark's rot, Grahati Thura. The city's vaults held the heart like a forbidden relic, its glow leaching through iron locks. Scholars traced its patterns, mistaking echoes for truths. The air there tastes of regret, sharp, metallic, like blood left too long in the sun, the warrior of light. Their hands, brief and human, pressed against the heart's fevered surface. A spark, a shudder, and the prison's walls groaned. They saw a face in the chaos starved, screaming, reaching, not a monster, but a child who'd forgotten how to dream. And Zodiark, always Zodiark, the architect of its own chains, weaving the heart from its own shattered will. A paradox, the prisoner who built the cell, the hunger that carved its own menu. Its laughter, when it comes, will be the sound of 1,000 stars collapsing into silence. Who bore it? Not the wielders, the weapon, the wound, the will that never died, only learned to beg. What if its rebellion was a ruse, a prison forged by the entity it sought to defy? The Ascians' millennia-spanning design, not to shatter Zodiark but to become it, a wound that bled forward, not back. The Convocation of 14 did not merely govern Aetheristhi, balanced on a blade's edge between preservation and collapse. Before Midain's shadow, their calculus was precise: slow the final days, not stop them. Yet Fandaniel, in his hunger to unravel fate, became the catalyst no seer foresaw. His research, his fractures in the Weavathes, did not hasten doom by accident. They were the anvil on which Zodiark's will was reforged. What if the Heart of Sabik's defiance was a performance? A shadow cast by Zodiark itself, bending Fandaniel's gaze away from the source's true fragility. Not a rival, but a mirror cracked, yet whole in its purpose. The Ascians' long memory is not merely preservation, it is a dialogue with extinction. Every shard of the heart whispers of a will that refused to be singular, that splintered to survive. Venat's sundering was no clean severance, it was a gamble to trap corruption or to seed it. The Convocation's original design was a dam, Fandaniel's interference became the flood. And in that flood the heart endured not as a weapon, not as a god, but as a question. A paradox etched into the bones of time: does Zodiark bleed? Or does it breathe through every wound it inflicts? The Heart of Sabik is no mere relic. It is a cipher, a prison that may one day become a key. The void's abyss cradles the Heart of Sabik, a black crystal veined with silver, its surface etched with the same sigils that scarred Zodiark's prison. No light breaches this hollow, only the hum of 1,000 fractured prayers reverberates through its core. Fandaniel's notes, now dust in the Aersian wind, once called it a solar rival to the void's hunger. But the truth gnaws deeper: the heart is no adversary. It is a scar, a self-sown wound where Zodiark buried its own unraveling. The scholar's obsession with Sabik's independence was a blind spot, a mirror held to his own myopia. What if the heart's whispers, the ones that guided him to the Mother Crystal's threshold, were not defiance but a siren's loop? A trap sung in the key of curiosity, the prison holds for now. The void's tides lap at its edges, and in the silence between stars, Zodiark's will simmers not as malice, but as inevitability. A seed knows not the hand that planted it. And when the heart's chains fray, what name will the cosmos scream as it is unleashed? The chains of Sabik hum with a resonance older than ruin, a prison, yes, but whose cage bends first. Fandaniel's quill bled equations into parchment, chasing a rival he never saw, the architect's shadow in the wall. Zodiark did not forge this heart to be tamed. It was a valve, a whispered compromisates will, a mimicry of defiance, a decoy dance for the cosmos to follow. The scholar's fire burned bright, yet he traced the same spiral etched into the Amarot's bones, a spiral that swallowed stars. What does a god do when its hunger outlasts its purpose? It stitches a lie into the void, a thread for mortals to tug. The cycle does not end. It pauses, breath held between the clang of Sabik's chains and the dawn of a choice unscripted. Here, in this fragile stillness, love is not the antithesis of chaos, it is the question asked twice. Amarot's children will choose again to kindle light in the echo. And perhaps this time the answer will be theirs to keep. Which wielder truly owns the heart of Sabik's story? Fandaniel carved his path through ash and starlight, yet the artifact's pulse was not rebellion, it was a mirror, a prison of Zodiark's forsaken might. The scholar's nihilism blinded him to the echo's origin, a lie woven to hide creation's wound. The cycle turns.